Good evening. This is Eswatini TV News at 8, read to you by myself, Natsile Sitole, alongside Zamanzi Manze. First up, let's have a look at our top stories. The Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini left for Malawi to represent His Majesty King Mswati III in the SADC Head of State's annual meeting. His Majesty King Mswati III has appointed new judges for the High Court and the Industrial Court. The newly appointed ministers for the Ministry of Labour and that of the Ministry of Public Service have been sworn into office. And now the news in detail. The Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini left the country for Malawi to represent His Majesty King Mswati III in the SADC Head of State's annual meeting. The Prime Minister left through the King Mswati III International Airport.
The Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini left the country for Lilongwe, Malawi to represent His Majesty King Mswati III in an annual SADC Head of State meeting. Among those to bid the Prime Minister farewell were Cabinet Ministers and the Lubombo Regional Administrator Themba Msibi. During a media briefing, the Prime Minister says many topics will be covered, including a report by the SADC outgoing chairperson.
I inform you about the command by His Majesty King Mswati III to attend the 41st SADC Summit of Heads of State and Government to be held in Lilongwe, Malawi. The SADC Summit is an annual event, as you may be aware, to consider progress on the Regional Indicative Strategic Development Plan and the Strategic Indicative Plan for the organ. It was preceded by an Executive Council of Ministers who have done a sterling job to address the very long agenda before them. The summit will consider the following thematic subject matters, all of which have been extrapolated from the agenda of the Executive Council to deserve urgent attention. Report of the outgoing chairperson of the organ for politics, defense and security cooperation. Performance of the SADC economy. HIV and AIDS. Status of implementation of the industrial strategy and roadmap. Transformation of the SADC Parliamentary Forum into a parliament. Post-Cotonou partnership agreement with the EU and other very important subject matters that require some degree of confidentiality. The delegation will come back on 21st August 2021.
The Prime Minister left through the King Mswati III International Airport and was accompanied by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Thuli Dladla, and the Minister of Economic Planning, Dr. Tambo Kina. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian Msibi at the King Mswati III International Airport.
His Majesty King Mswati III has appointed 4 judges, 1 for the High Court and 3 for the Industrial Court. Announcing the appointment, Chief Justice Bheki Maphalala says the addition of these judges will assist in minimizing the backlog of cases that the country's courts are having. Maphalala was speaking during the swearing-in of 2 judges that were appointed.
The 4 judges appointed by His Majesty King Mswati III, 3 of these judges are appointed for the Industrial Court, while 1 is for the High Court. Chief Justice Bheki Maphalala, when making the announcement, thanked His Majesty King Mswati III for the appointment of these judges.
To thank His Majesty the King and Ngwenyama for the appointment of 4 judges, 1 for the High Court and 3 for the Industrial Court. We have Justice Mazuma Vuso for the High Court, Lorraine Hlope for the Industrial Court, Dumisile Dlamini for the Industrial Court, and Manene Twala for the Industrial Court. 2 judges will be sworn in today, and the other 2 judges will be sworn very shortly. I would like to congratulate the judges who will be swearing in today and wish them well in their career. When you are part.
Maphalala stated that these appointments will play a huge role in reducing the high volumes of cases received daily by the country's courts.
The appointment of the judges will contribute positively in the reduction of the backlog of cases at the High Court and the Industrial Court. The Industrial Court, the High Court, as well as the Magistrates' Court, receive high volumes of cases on a daily basis. It is against this background that we are still requesting the government to give us more judicial posts for both judges and the magistrates in order to meet the demand.
Chief Justice Peggy Maphalala sworn in Lorraine Hlophe as an industrial judge and Mazwi Mavuso as a High Court judge.
Will be faithful and bear true allegiance to King Mswati III, his heirs and successors according to law, so help me God.
You sign.
I, Lorraine Lungile Hlophe, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to King Mswati III, his heirs and successors, according to law. So help me God.
Thank you. Sign.
Maphalala stated that the judiciary has requested more posts for judges and magistrates as there are many pending cases in the country's courts. For Eswatini TV News, Mlangeni with Muzim Konda in Babane.
The newly appointed Minister for Labour and Social Security, Phila Buthelezi, and the Minister for Public Service, Mabulala Masego, have been sworn into office by the Attorney General, Sifiso Khumalo, during a swearing-in ceremony held in the Cabinet offices on Monday.
The 2 newly appointed ministers were sworn in by the Attorney General Sifiso Khumalo in the presence of the Deputy Prime Minister, Cabinet Ministers, and their families.
I, Mabulala Masego,
do swear
that
I will be faithful
and
bear true allegiance
to
King Mswati III,
Mswati III,
his heirs and successors, according to law. So help me God. Congratulations, Honorable Minister. I, Phila Buthelezi, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to King Mswati III, his heirs and successors, according to law. So help me God.
The Deputy Prime Minister, Themba Masuku, representing the Prime Minister, says that their responsibilities have been added. Masuku also thanked the ministers who were acting ministers in these 2 ministries. He further encouraged their family members to support them as they execute their duties.
Lapha nje si family la cabinet siyabambisana kungakonje utibona netindvuna letinye tikhona la. Wathi ke ngiphinze ngibonga tindvuna lebetibambile kunamatiko lebengobe kungelula kepha ke nathi nithanza tikhona ngibone totimbili nje tiphefumula nanicetsa kufunga lapha ngabona ukuthi khona lokwehlako but titanibambisa nathi sitanibambisa.
He says that they should be aware that some people will commend their work while others will have so many things to say about their work. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni with Muzim Konda in Babane.
Chief Justice Peggy Maphalala says the country needs more magistrates and judges to work on high volumes of cases received daily. Maphalala says the country has 25 magistrates and 12 High Court judges, which are not sufficient. Maphalala says the Judiciary has requested more posts from government. Chief Justice was speaking when providing an update on the Judiciary project that will be launched before the end of this year.
In a bid to ensure that the judiciary system of the country is complying with international demands such as the World Bank, a commercial court has been established and will be launched before the end of this year. According to Chief Justice Peggy Maphalala, premises have been secured.
Is the establishment of the commercial court. We have secured premises and we have finalized the partitioning of the premises. On the premises, we have chambers of judges, we have offices for the support staff, and we have a big courtroom that will be utilized as a commercial court. What remains now is the installation of the recording equipment as well as the required furniture. We have already requested from government to be given 3 judicial posts for judges who will preside over the commercial court. There's been an outcry over the years from the World Bank and other quarters that our country still lacks a commercial court. It is against this background that we are establishing the commercial court in order to meet international demands. We have got 25 magistrates, the whole country, and that is not sufficient. We need more magistrates for the thousands of cases that are pending before the magistrates' court. We have asked government to give us 25 more posts for the magistrates, and we have also asked government to give us posts for the High Court. We still need more posts at the High Court. Currently, we are having 12 posts for judges at the High Court, and that is not enough. We need at least about 20 posts for judges at the High Court. We have about 4 posts for judges at the Industrial Court, and again, that is not sufficient. We've asked for 5 more posts for judges at the Industrial Court in order to speed up the backlog of cases at the Industrial Court.
Maphalala further stated that the country has 8 supreme judges and an addition of 2 more judges is needed. For Eswatini TV News, Mlangeni with Muzim Konda in Babane.
Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Bongan Masugu, says the ongoing Food Systems Summit dialogues will help Eswatini in achieving sustainable development goals, especially goal number 2, which seeks to end hunger and achieve food security. The week-long dialogues are held in partnership with the United Nations Eswatini.
Last week, Friday, Eswatini, in collaboration with the United Nations, started a virtual Eswatini Food Systems Summit dialogue. Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Bongan Masugu, says the dialogues will help Eswatini develop a plan on how the country can achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, especially goal number 2, which speaks to ending hunger and achieving food security.
National and even in the sub-regions at SADC level, AU level, to come with plans and ideas as to what do we think should be done for us to achieve adequate food, nutritious food, but at the same time being produced under sustainable means. Because when we produce, we must not destroy the environment.
Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations Assistant Representative, Councillor Mabuza, says with these dialogues, Eswatini will be able to address issues of stunted growth, which is currently at 25.5% among others.
We have a high stunting problem of 25.5% of children below the age of 5 that are stunted. Imagine our country having these people, if this is not corrected, imagine that we all have children, grandchildren at that stunted size, and we have a population of seemingly dwarfs when we are not meant to be. This is not really good. We also have an estimated of 5.5% of people or population which is now classified as severely food insecure. This is not good. We also have, even on a good season, you would find that, when we say, oh, we're able to grow some food, you'll find that about 30% of the population still lives under the poverty line. And this is not good for the country. We need to be answerable to the SDGs. We need to improve our status of food insecurity in the country.
The ongoing dialogues will be followed by an international food system summit that will be held in the US next month. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I am Samgal Suekoza with Vominko Sinsinisa Lutze.
Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority invites businesses and companies to improve trade under the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA. APA's Executive Manager for Trade, Bonganjanga, says Eswatini currently exports about 450 million emalangeni worth of products to AGOA.
To improve trade in Africa in the year 2000, the United States established an African Growth and an Opportunity Act, AGOA. The act was supposed to end in 2015, which saw the U.S. extending it by 10 years, giving economies a task to develop an AGOA utilization strategy. The Kingdom of Eswatini launched her AGOA utilization and implementation plan this year. Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority's Executive Manager for Trade, Bonganjanga, says there is a huge demand for Eswatini products in the U.S., as each state is expected to export to AGOA about 6,400 items. He says they are inviting companies and businesses to contact APA on how to fully utilize AGOA.
We still need a lot of products from Eswatini. The textile industry is not fully supplying the demand as it is. Food products, agricultural products, and a lot of other products are still in demand all over the world. What we are saying as IPA at this point in time is that companies that are export ready should approach us so that we assist them, we handhold them. We have a list of potential buyers. We have a list of companies that want products from Eswatini and from other parts of the world that are saying, what can you supply us these? As a company, what we then do as IPA is we are targeting at holding these as SMEs, especially small businesses, so that we assist them in terms of quality production, volumes of supply, consistency of supply, to make sure that they meet the expected standards across the world for them to supply their goods.
Currently, Eswatini exports about 450 million worth of locally produced products. Top products are sugar, clothing and textile products, specialty foods such as chutney and sauces, among others. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I am Samgal Suekoza with Vominko Sinsinisa at.
The public is notified that a section of the MR8 Helele Big Bend Road between Sipofaneni and Tambuti will be closed to traffic as of tomorrow, the 17th of August 2021. The closure will be for an estimated period of 3 weeks. This is to allow the roads department to attend to a failure on the western abutment of the Mtimpofu River Bridge at Mambolo. Motorists will be rerouted through the D50 Sipofaneni St. Philip's Road to St. Philip's. Motorists are urged to exercise extreme caution on the D50 road, especially over the Usutu River on the Mapobeni Bridge, as this structure is a single-lane bridge. The Royal Eswatini Police Service is deeply disturbed by shocking utterances made by Sergeant Cebile Shongwe on social media and other mass communication platforms in relation to events that supposedly happened during the unrest experienced in the country. Back in June, statement is issued by the Police Information Communications Office.
The police service is deeply disturbed by the shocking utterances made by Sergeant Cebile Shongwe, also known as Cegbe, which have intentionally been made and calculated to bring the police service into disrepute and sow seeds of discord within the nation. The police service says the statement she made through social media and other mass communication platforms in relation to events that supposedly unfolded during the unfortunate unrest experienced in the country towards the end of June are unfounded, delusional, and grossly irresponsible, even by her own standards. The police service further says they condemn her actions and wayward utterances in the strongest possible terms, and they are considering fitting redress for her actions. They say one such form of redress is processing to formally terminate her services following her purported resignation and subsequent failure to report for work. They say she's a bad apple of note and the police service will be better off without her. Lastly, the police service extended their abundant apologies to all categories affected by Shongwen's utterances and affirmed that the wider majority of police officers remain committed to their oath of office to be of service to the nation of Eswatini. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I am Samgel Suekoza with information source from Police Information Communications Office.
The police have apprehended a group of people who were trying to disrupt peace in some parts of the country on Monday. The Police Information and Communications Officer, Superintendent Pindile Vilagati, says some were trying to disrupt classes in some schools.
The Royal Eswatini Police Service were visible in most of the country's roads on Monday following threats on social media. They are mostly ensuring public safety and searching for any illegal weapons and substances that may be carried during the day. The news crew visited Eswatini and Ngoyoyo areas where the police had staged roadblocks and removing unroadworthy cars. The Chief Police Information and Communications Officer, Superintendent Pindile Vilagati, gives a highlight of the day, where she says there are some who have been apprehended for trying to disturb peace.
la kugcine kuboshwa khona abantu nabasithupha ngekutholakala abafuna ukuphathamisa kuhamba kwebantu noma sive kuyo emgwaqo yelivela kaMngwane. Kanti futhi kuthi namhla ekuseni lapha kaManzini ngoba nekhumbi bese ibonakala ifuna ukuphathamisa yona imigwaqo iphindze ikhokha nabantu phala emaklasini. Nayo ke singamaphoyisa sivele sayikhanga emuva noko-ke nayo kunene vele wathi ibalekela kepha ingalo yomthetho lenze igcine ikhona kufinyelela kuyo. Kunalabanike labagcine bathatha lapho ukutiphendulela la ngaloko kuqala. Siyaqhubeka ke ukusixwayisa sive kakhulu kanti etindzabeni lekugcina wona umthetho. Lotawandeka abonakala phambana nanoma nganguphi umthetho lokhona vele sitawuqhubeka singamaphoyisa nokuthi simgole leyo kunene ayotiphendulela ngaloko. Sithi-ke asithathele ithuba lekuqhubeka sixwayisa sive ukuthi asitiphathe kahle nebatali sicela ukuthi abaqhubeke basibambise ebantwaneni abangabonakali bafuna ukufaka sandla beyona inqubekela phambili yalo.
Superintendent Vilagati says some even tried to disrupt classes in some schools, but they were quickly brought to book. She says they will continue to ensure property and life safety while making sure that the nation is free from all kinds of threats, especially on social media during this time. Was that traffic was not like most Mondays, as there were fewer cars moving while compiling this report. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian MCB, Mbabane.
The Eswatini Tourism Authority's head of marketing, Sibonso Madlopa, says Eswatini, being listed among high-risk countries for travel, will definitely have a negative impact on the tourism sector, but that means they will have to promote domestic tourism.
Eswatini has recently been listed amongst the high-risk level 4 countries when it comes to COVID-19 traveling. What does this mean for the tourism sector, which will once again be affected with no tourists coming into the country? The Eswatini Tourism Authority head of marketing, Siboniso Madlopa, says this is only temporal, but it will affect the tourism sector.
Tourism Authority is concerned with the data that has been issued, or the statement that has been issued by CTC of travel advisory against Eswatini. So we are very much disappointed, but at the same time we have a lot of hope that this will change not long from now because of the ongoing vaccination program that is in the country. We want to applaud government and her partners for really expediting this process, and we are hoping that all Eswatini will take this initiative and go out there and take the vaccine, because this gives a positive outlook to international tourists coming into the country, because they imagine themselves coming into the country being served by vaccinated people or vaccinated service providers, but also visiting a country where a good number of the population is also vaccinated. So this will really make CDC to revise such statements. So we do believe that not long from now, this statement will have changed, And this will require all of us, Eswatini as a collective, to go out there and vaccinate, and we ensure that the international community has got a positive outlook on the country. And this will indeed help revive the economy as more COVID-19 restrictions will be relaxed as a result of the vaccination program that will have been successful. So we are really looking forward to really working against such, and we are hoping that not very long from now, the CDC and other international bodies will be encouraging their citizens to come to Eswatini for leisure purposes.
Matlopa says they will promote domestic traveling during this time. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian MCB Visuals, sourced from the Eswatini Tourism Authority page.
And now let's have a look at our financial markets.
Standard Bank. It can be.
Good evening once again. You are still watching Eswatini TV. Let's have a look at our sports news. Eswatini Coaches Association Chairman Anthony Mdluli says the association is encouraging more women to take on coaching courses. Mdluli says the association will soon implement programs which seek to introduce more women into coaching. Fabrice Msonera has a report.
Women coaches in the country are faced with the biggest challenge of not being recognized in their profession. Inasmuch as their numbers are still low compared to men, the Eswatini Coaches Association has found it fit to introduce programs of encouraging women coaches to be more involved in coaching staff by also trying to increase their numbers. The association's chairman, Anthony Mdluli, believes there is a need to start also encouraging clubs to hire more women coaches.
But sitaw encourage lokuthi vele nabo bathathe le leadership role go association.
Zandile Bulunga and Fagazile Vilagati are currently amongst the few women coaches in the country. Having acquired license D, so far they believe women football, sponsors and women coaches association all have a role to play in ensuring that the numbers are increased.
Manje vele bantu besifazane bese beva ngazuthi asikanakwa thine kwakhona la kuleli bhola lethu labomake utawuthola ukuthi labo coach bakhona labanyenti besilisa.
The recent annual general meeting of the Coaches Association, out of over 120 coaches that attended the meeting, only 3 women coaches took part of the meeting. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera with Rinda Dlamini, Mbabane.
That's all for now. Before I head out, let's have a look at our top stories. The Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini left for Malawi to represent His Majesty King Mswati III in the SADC Head of State's annual meeting. His Majesty King Mswati III has appointed new judges for the High Court and the Industrial Court. The newly appointed ministers for the Ministry of Labour and that of the Ministry of Public Service have been sworn into office. And with that, we sum up our bulletin for the evening. Up next is the weather update from myself and the team here at Eswatini TV. Thanks for your company. Good night.